Hello, everybody. It is Monday, the 15th of August. I want to make two videos today, this morning, and that is how we are being led as children, and that is being led as children by the way of restriction, and being led as children as on the way of expansion. And again, looking at the Bible and really understanding what it is they did, because that is a knowledge of ourselves, and we must work with the reality of who we are and what certain things do to us. I mean, once we are conscious of that, we can look out for it. Yeah? But if we do it unconsciously, we don't even know it's happening. And it is just reality if there are certain influences on us that we will react in a certain way, because that is who we are. Yeah, and it's not so much changing ourselves, because the same thing can be good or bad. You know, it really depends on how you use it. But just being aware that that is what you would do in a certain situation if you don't think about it, if you're not aware of it. So that is really waking up to the knowledge of ourselves. And here comes, I want to talk again, being led through the wilderness, the way of the Old Testament, and that was the way of restriction, which created a certain outcome, a certain people, actually psychotic people. And I want to show you how. Psychotic means detached from a reality, and they were, and was actually deliberately done. So when I said when they came out of Egypt, and I said before, how did they know themselves? And I actually missed a very important point. First of all, they knew themselves as slaves, yes. They were following orders. They were drilled into following orders. Yeah? And they knew that if they didn't follow orders, something bad would happen. But there was another point that only came to me this morning. And that is, if you were a slave in Egypt, you were probably in a very diverse society of slaves. You know, we're talking about the Hebrew slaves, but Hebrew slaves weren't the only ones there. There were probably slaves from other North African countries, from sub-Saharan countries. So they were probably in a very diverse slave society, so to speak. And they knew others. They knew others as themselves, as other slaves, completely different people. So then when the Spirit said, I don't like your knowledge of Egypt, that was probably part of that. Yeah, they knew others as themselves. So then, and here comes, when they went through the wilderness for a generation, until that knowledge was gone, yeah? And those that spoke up against it, you know, after a while, people actually got the confidence, you know, got out of the slaves thinking, yeah, well, we speak up for ourselves. Well, then the ground opened up beneath them. You know, that will teach the others, you know, not to think for yourself. So you had a whole generation that only knew themselves. They were actually deliberately kept apart from everybody else. And as I say, it's not that they didn't have empathy, but they only knew each other. Yeah? And to them, everything outside of themselves, they had no empathy with it, because they did no longer know it. They knew it in Egypt, but they no longer knew others. And then others were either a threat or just an obstacle on the way to their desire. And this is where you have actually formed a mass psychosis. Yeah? To say the detachment from reality, the thing, we are the only thing here, which is detached from reality. And out of that psychotic behavior, because what they did, slaughtering their way into the promised land, was full-on psychotic. Again, detached from a reality. And that's the reality that those they were going up against were actually human beings like themselves. that no longer registered. And it is no good bemoaning it, yeah, or a human being should be different. No, that is a reality we have to deal with. That is who we are. That is what will happen. And you see, again, bring that story nowadays. Again, the young generation is being taken away from the knowledge of the elders. Those elders of the older generation that are trying to speak out, Twitter will open the ground beneath them. And that's where we are. And at the moment, it's actually they're wiping, seems to be that they're wiping the knowledge clean completely. Yeah? The way they're being taught, that there's no knowledge anymore. There's no structure, there's nothing. So what they're actually doing is wiping the slate completely. And once you have a clean slate, you can build anything on that. And that's what they're doing to the young generation. So again, it is up to us to, values, structure, behave like a human being to those of us who still know what a human being should be. But then again, you say, people, structure, like a church. We need churches to give structure. But churches, for the most part, do exactly what happened in the wilderness. Yeah? They form a group that is separated from everything else. They're doing the exact same, and they're actually working in separation. Rather, most of them do. Rather than coming together. Bring them again into a group think. And then everybody is outside that group thing is your enemy, is sinful, is, you shouldn't have anything to do with them. So no, that wouldn't work either. Formation of groups, again, don't run like sheep and say, well, we can't have any groups at all. No, formation of groups is good because there is such a thing as putting more than one head together is a good thing. Having more than two hands, to do a work is a good thing. It is just that the group must know that it is working on a specific thing that should benefit all. Yeah, and in that, a group would work correctly. So, but I see that is the understanding of ourselves, and it is in that story, and that is really sheep herding by restriction. Yeah. But this is where you pull the flock together and separate it from everything else. And here's the thinking of strength in order to go up against. And a lot of people are still in that thinking, form groups to go up against, instead of form groups in order to do for. We think about strength only as going up against. But we're not thinking of strength as forgiving to others that way. So, but I mean, again, in that story, it shows you what can be done to a human being. And that is the reality of who we are. Yeah? And I said, it's not that we should change ourselves, we just need to be aware that is how we will react. Be aware of ourselves. Accept ourselves. That is who we are. And then know, not to be driven into situations like that. Anyway, I leave it like that in this video, and then I want to show you the other way, which is really the Luciferian way. Give them whatever they want and lead them into destruction that way. It is the destruction of the spirit, the truth, the true human spirit, because in this restriction, your human spirit is restricted because you cannot connect to others outside of the groupthink anymore. Anyway, I leave it at that. And I'll talk to you in a few minutes about the other thing. Bye.